Good morning and welcome back to the channel. It's another fine, glorious, mostly cloudy day here in eastern North Carolina, and we had some pelting rain yesterday. Loud bird in the background too. So we had some pelting rain, and we're gonna have more rain in the upcoming days. I don't know how that'll affect videos for the next few days, but we'll see. Quick side note, if you guys are liking the shorts that I'm putting out, or you'd like to see something different, or you don't like the shorts, please let me know in the comments below. It's always appreciated. As you can see, I'm standing in the rose garden, or what will be the rose garden. This is sort of the place mark for the rose garden. But on the ground you see the black weed fabric. The grasses beneath it are, I'm going to say, almost dead, almost gone. Which is good news, because then that means I can start working and developing the space, putting in the edging for the beds. I can start putting in the edging for the beds, and I can start filling in with compost and then digging that in, as it were, and forking it in, I should say. And then of course planting soon. So stay tuned for that. If you're a regular watcher, thank you. If you've only subscribed to the channel for updates on the rose garden, it's coming. It's coming. I promise it's coming. Space is getting there. I just need to wait for that grass to die off, and then I can start building out the space. So we had a lot of rain. So what does that mean? Well, I'm limited as to what I can be doing today because everything is very, very wet, and it's not really going to dry out. In fact, I turned around and I mowed with my ride-on mower right before the rain, but it was too hot and there was too little time to turn around and do things like the vegetable garden. All right, I don't know if you can tell, but the grass is getting pretty tall. Maybe if I show my shoe here. I like to keep it really short, but it's getting pretty tall, and it's just because I wasn't able to get in here to take care of this before the rain. Look at that loofah. It's crazy. Crazy. Let me show you something here. Look at that loofah sponge. There we go. Let's try this. See that loofah sponge in there? It's huge. And here's another one. Oop, here's one. The size of that loofah sponge. So my loofahs seem to be doing pretty well. And the bees really enjoy the flowers. Tomatoes are an ongoing battle. And though I have gotten some harvest off of them, the wildlife, the insect pressure has been immense. And they've been killing more than the plants have been producing. So I will do a little tying up and tidying of these today. But let me show you something else. Pumpkin. Lots of pumpkin vine. And somewhere deep down in there, there are some pumpkins. No big ones yet, but small ones. I don't know if I'll actually get any big ones this year, and I don't know why. But live and learn, plant and grow. See what happens. And if you fail at something, you try something different next year. The melons are doing quite well. In fact, that one right there should be ready for harvest, I think. And according to the interwebs, if you turn around and look, hold on. According to the interwebs, there should be a little tendril. So here's the melon. And according to the interwebs, there should be a little tendril nearby. If it's still green, it's still growing. So I think this is the tendril that the interwebs is talking about. So this melon is still growing. Let's take a look at this one. This right here might be the tendril, and it's still green. Or maybe it's that one. But that one's still green. So these melons are still growing, which is good. It's another one I want to check out. I'm going to presume that's the tendril right there, and that's still green as well. So the melons are still growing. That's good news. They say 75 to 80 days. I haven't really been keeping track. I just kind of planted them as a whim. See what would happen. I've never grown watermelon before. They seem to be growing. They seem to be doing well. Worst case scenario is that they stay on the vine too long, and then at that point the flavor becomes diluted. But according to the interwebs, you're supposed to wait until that tendril turns brown. It looks like a light green to me now, so maybe in a week or 2, 3, I don't know, it'll be ready to harvest. So I'll give you an update on that when that happens. I want to go show you one of the, well, challenges that I face here in eastern North Carolina on my 1.5 acres with heavy clay soil. Standing water. So I think I've shown you this before, and if you're new to the channel, then I'm on 1.5 acres in eastern North Carolina, and the soil is pretty heavy in clay, which means the water does not recede that fast. So I get these small lakes. Now, back here somewhere in this tree line, once upon a time there was a drainage ditch, but that has since grown in. So the water then starts to back up into my property. This was actually much deeper last night. Let's see if I can find the deepest spot. There we go. So at the deepest spot here towards the wood line, last night it was about up to halfway up my calf, so it was a few inches deeper. And if we come over here, this pile right here of grass and wood chips, this is at the corner of the rose garden, what will be the rose garden. And I'm using the grass and the wood chips to build up the ground because of the deep water. So, and eventually I will run a line, as it were, to what will be the far corner, and all the water, and I will try to raise the ground so that whatever I plant won't be drowning in water. If we look over here at this bush, this is a Japanese sky pencil holly. This is doing well, and you could see I have it actually sticking, it's practically sitting on top of the ground. I barely dug a hole for it, but it's doing well. The water will recede, which is great, but again, it's the heavy clay soil, so it takes quite a while for that to do, and no plant likes to sit in standing water too long, so we have to adjust for that. Now, I'm coming back to what essentially is going to be the middle of the rose garden, and if we look down, standing water, quite a bit of it. This too I will work on over time, and one of the ways I'm going to work on this location, this space, is I'm going to aerate the ground as much as possible and mix in compost. And what that should do, hopefully, is allow for more draining, faster draining of the soil. And here's another spot right in the middle. Again, very wet, very mucky. But again, I'll try to aerate it over time and add in the compost, which again should allow the ground to drain faster. And I think that would be a key to anything growing in this space. Now, obviously, I have grass growing. Grass pretty much grows in almost any conditions, as I've learned. Whether it's sandy soil or clay soil, grass is a pretty robust weed, as it were. Now, over here, where I'm going to be putting in the first bed for the rose garden, that's going to be slightly elevated. In fact, all the beds for the rose garden will be slightly elevated, because I'm going to be putting in a metal edging that's 8 inches thick. I'll be sinking that about 3 inches into the ground. 5 inches about approximately will stand above ground, so it'll almost be like a raised bed. And then of course I'll backfill that, and that's because, again, as we get these heavy rains and the property starts to flood a little bit, those root roses will mostly be out of the water, or again, as the water recedes, a lot of those roots will just dry out. Not dry out, but they won't be submerged in water. Now, I'm not going to show my neighbor's house, or I'm going to try to avoid showing my neighbor's house there, but somewhere in that water line there, that's the property line. And last night, again, the water was probably about here, and it was mostly up their lawn. It's just the ground, just the way it is. And again, there's supposed to be a drainage ditch between the properties. There really isn't one deep enough. And with the heavy clay soil, it all just sinks in. Not sinks in, but it stands. So when it stands and it rains a lot, it doesn't have a chance to recede enough. Now this spot right here is pretty much the only wet spot that will be in the area where the orchard is going to be. This area towards the front of the property, there's the street and the drainage ditch. This area here where the flower garden is going to go is mostly dry. There are a few low spots, and I'll show you that now. Okay, so the area here along the driveway, basically this is the only spot that seems to flood a bit. When we get out more towards the center, again, of the area that will be the flower garden, heading down towards what will be the orchard eventually, it doesn't seem to flood or flood as bad. The water probably just runs off into the drainage ditch, or it runs someplace, I don't know. But right along here, it tends to get a little flooded bad, which actually isn't the end of the world, because, hold on, this stake, this post, yeah, that's going to go back that way. So that's going to go back that way towards the tree, and the flower garden will be going that way, which means most of the flooded area will not be in the flower garden, which is always a good thing. There was a little bit of flooding or water standing in front of the dahlias here, but nothing too bad. And again, I planted the dahlias up on mounds, and eventually these dahlias will move to a new location, and this will be hedging, which hopefully will take place one day. But so the dahlias really weren't affected, other than getting a really good soak, which is good. And they are producing like mad. Well, some of them are. I've had some problems with ants recently, attacking the plants, as it were. I purchased a organic ant killer, and that seemed to have drive the ants back away from the dahlias, but I will have to keep a constant eye and look out on that. One more thing, I think, before we wrap up today's video, and then I have menial work to get done, but lots of it. Sunflowers. The sunflowers, which, if you watched my video, I think it was called Tying Things Up, I basically did a string grid to help give support to the sunflowers, and I said I was going to have to probably do a few more layers as the plants grew up. That video was released, I think, about a week ago, less than a week, and they've grown, I'd say, at least a foot in that time. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Right now, it's a little hard to tell because I'm hand holding the camera on my tripod with me right now. But these sunflowers are basically at my waist height, which is pretty awesome. And they will continue to grow. Like I said, the first variety here is called Mammoth Sunflower. It's supposed to get to about 12 foot tall. The variety in front of it is still a little too small, I think, and those are Del Sols. But they should hopefully be taking off soon, maybe even with all this heavy rain, and that would be pretty awesome to have an 8-foot bed filled with sunflowers, just overwhelming the garden, as it were. Okay, so for the remainder of the day, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to deadhead some of my dahlias. I'm going to tie up some of my dahlias. I'm going to turn around and mark your calendars, because I'm going to turn around and pot up, or bag up I should say, some potatoes for a fall harvest. I'm going to try this. I've never done this before, and in many places around the country you can't do it, but again, I'm in zone 8A, so my growing season doesn't end until mid to late November, depending upon frost. Could end a little sooner or a little later. We'll see how the weather goes. But I have a bunch of little things that I need to get done, and that's going to wrap it up for today, because I'm not going to show you those things. They're just dull, boring, and uneventful, and you've probably seen them, and if you haven't, go back and watch some of my other videos, because I've potted up, I've deadheaded dahlias before, I've potted up some potatoes before. I'm going to try to provide some maybe more string support to the sunflowers, tie up some and do some maintenance on the tomatoes, and that's the extent of my day. Thankfully today is going to be a bit cooler, so I will be getting on with my tasks now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon to be notified of when I do post up a new video, hopefully something more exciting than this. If you like my YouTube shorts, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to see more YouTube shorts, I'll be happy to make them. They're fairly easy to make. In fact, I should have one coming out soon on garlic. I have a garlic harvest to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be notified, and hopefully you catch that video. What else? Follow me on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I often post up pictures there that you don't often see here on YouTube. Check out the links below. I have a merch store, and I think that's going to be a wrap it up for today. Hopefully this will be a short video and not too boring. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.